Well, hello, welcome to our reading of Homer, and we're reading Odyssey, Book 7. I was up to line 139. And happily we now return, although it's quite pretty, we now actually return from that fairly difficult ekphrasis back to some fairly standard Homeric Greek. Auta hobe diadoma polutlas dios Odysseus. Polen a echon, hein hoi pericuen Athene. Offra hicet ereten tekai Alkinoon Basileia. But the usual phrase here, much enduring, glorious Odysseus went through the house, and the hot is going the Odysseus. It's almost but he, much enduring, glorious Odysseus went through the house. Echon, having literally much mist air, so with much mist around him perhaps, hein, which Athena was pouring around him. The hoi is pouring around for him. This is the dative for auto, which was pouring around him. Offra hiceterete, in order that, or possibly until, I think probably until he came, because it's not subjunctive here, until he came to Arete and to King Alkinous. Amphidar aretes baligunas in kairas Odysseus, kai toti de rautoio palin huto thesvatos aer. So the subject here is Odysseus, balle, from ballo, aorist, cast or through his keras, his hands, around the gunasin, for gonasin, around the knees of Arete, and then the ara here is accordingly. And we get a nice little jingle here, amphidar areta, so we get a repetition of the sounds here, which Greek likes. And at that time, the divine Thesvatos, the divine air or mist here, the divine mist, huto, this is connected with heo, literally poured back from him. So we get a sort of ablatival genitive here, so from him. So the divine mist, well, poured back, fell from him. Hoide anio egenon to domon cataphrota idontes, thaumaston doroontes, hodi litanuen Odysseus. But they were, now this is a very odd word here, but it is quite common in Homer, and it means silent. It's actually grammatically here a nominative plural. It's an alpha privative connected with a verb of crying out, and the ending here is some kind of contracted nominative plural. So they were silent, seeing phota, a man, about the house. Notice the accent on kata, meaning it refers to the word before it. So seeing a man in the house, we might say. Now this here is, there are two phoses in Greek. There's phos with a circumflex phos, meaning light, and there's phos with an acute accent, which is what this is coming from, meaning a man, and they're two different words in fact. So having seen a man in the house. Thaumaston de oroontes hoi de lepidas Odysseus. So they were amazed seeing him, and Odysseus, litenuen, the verb here connected with lite, prayer, so he began to supplicate them. Well, in fact, her. he began to offer prayer to her or supplicate her. And he says, Ariti thugater rexaneros antitheoia, son te posin sa te guna thikano polamagesas, tus di te dinoumonas toisi theoi albiadoien, so emenai, kai paisin epitrepseien hekastos, kate marteni megaroisin geras thopti demos edoken. O Arete, daughter of godlike Rhexenor, and Homer's already gone through the genealogy of Aretor. So Rhexenor's the one who only had one child before he died, and it was Arete. He didn't have any male offspring. Having laboured muchly, this is an adverb here. It's a shame in English we've lost the word muchly. Would be a very useful adverb in English for translating polla in the Greek, but I often use muchly. It's a very handy word here. So having laboured much, probably better English nowadays. This is from mogio, to labour. I have come to your husband and to your knees, sa gonata. So we get two personal adjectives here, your husband and your knees. And to these, probably pointing, it's a deictic word here, and these people who are dining or feasting. This is from ditumone. And then he gives this wish, doyen, it's an optative from didomi, may the gods grant Olbia prosperity to them. And then we get, as a run over, we get this infinitive here, which is it's interesting here. It's probably epexegetic. You could say, may he grant to live perhaps Olbia prosperously, if you take that as an adverb, or better, I think, may the gods give prosperous things to them, something like in their life. It's this is an old infinitive ending, and the infinitive is often used as originally an old dative, so it often has that sense of two or four, so for them to live in, or throughout their life, or something. Kai paisin epitrepsein hekastos katemart eni megaroisi, and epitrepsein, may they pass on. This again is another optative wish, and then this is plural, but then we get hekastos, which is always generally in the singular. So it's literally, may they pass on these olbia, these prosperities, to their children. May each one of them pass on or pass them their olbia, their prosperity to their, the subject's down here. Sorry, it's the, may each one of them pass on their katemata, their possessions, to their children, their possessions in their halls, and the geras, probably the sense of privilege, their position, their wealth, hoti, whatever the demos. Generally in Homer, demos refers to the land, but in the Odyssey it can sometimes, I believe, refer more to the general populace, the people, but the people connected with the land. So whatever the people give. Ate emoi pompein ornute patrid hikestai tharson epe de detha philon apo pemata pasco. And again, just enjoy the pi sounds here, remembering that the phi was original p, so you get a p sound, you get four p sounds here, but almost having a sense of perhaps desperation about them. So having wished them well, he now tells them what he wants. But otrunete, this is imperative, otrunos to stir up, so rouse up for me, a Pompane, an escort, to come to my fatherland, Tharson quickly. So it is actually a comparative. It means more quickly, frequently used with imperatives, sort of the sooner the better. So stir up an escort for me to go to my fatherland as quickly as possible, since indeed Datha, that's a little particle here, it means for a long time, as I recall, and notice the accent on apo, so it's referring to the word before. So since for a long time away from my dear ones, Pasco, I suffer, Pamata, I suffer pains or distress, and it's plural from Pama is the singular, it's third declension, neuter noun. Hos epone cat headset ep escare en coniesi pa puri. Hoidara pantes akain egenonto ciope. And thus speaking, and we have a preverb here, it's Timesis if you will, but in Homer you generally call it a preverb. So he sat down at the escara is the hearth. So he sat down at the hearth in coniesi, in the dust, pa for para, beside the fire. Again, just enjoy the pi sounds here. Parapuri, hoidipantes, and ciope. You get lots of these pi sounds here. Greek likes sound patterns in the language here. And they, accordingly, all of them were. Now, akain and ciope essentially mean the same thing. They both mean in silence. So they sat quietly in silence, or something. We could want to get both words in. Opsed dede met ee pegeron heros ex eneos, echeneos, hoste phiekon andron, progenesteros aen, kai muthoisi kekasto, palaya te pola te eidos, hospin eophronion, agoresati kai met epen. And opse, probably something like finally, or it's sort of often used in the sense of late. So after some time, finally, the old man, the hero, Echeneos, metape, well, perhaps replied. So he spoke afterwards. So he replied, who, in fact, was, ain for ain, the progenesteros, the eldest of all the, it's a bit like our most elderly, it's a comparative in fact, the most elderly, even though it's comparative, it's take it as almost superlative. So the most elderly of all the Phaeacian men, and kekasto is from kai numai. If you're looking this one up, it's kappa alpha iota nu upsilon mu alpha iota. Kai numai is to excel, and he, this is a pluperfect, he had excelled muthoisi in words, so in speech. Knowing, Greek combines, in English we might have two adjectives, Greek puts an and in between them, so it's literally knowing ancient and many things. So we would say knowing many things from of old, many ancient things. Hops and he, euphroneon, thinking good things, he addressed and replied and spoke in reply, spin for spizzy, to them. And he says, Alkinous, this is a vocative, Umen toi todikalion udi I oike, xenon men kamai hestai, ebescare en conniesin. Hoidi de, so hoide de son muthon poti degmenoi iscan oontai. So Alkinous, and this is a little bit more tricky to put the verb to be, I think, in here. So this is not the better, literally this is a comparative for kalos. This is not the fairer way or not the better way. This is not the fairer thing, nor does it seem right, oike, for the, and we get an infinitive here, hastai, from hamai, to sit, for the stranger to sit. Hamai, this is an example of an old locative ending. This little iota here is an old locative, so it means on the ground, I think. And it's the remnants of an old Indo-European locative, so it's not right, nor does it seem good for the stranger to sit on the ground at the hearth en conniesin, in the dust. That's plural for singular. We don't use dust in the plural generally in English. So we get a comparison here with xenon men and hoidi de. So there is a men and a de going on here. So it's not right, on the one hand, for the stranger to sit on the ground at the hearth in the dust, and on the other hand, for these ones, this is the other people at the feast, and they iskano ontai, something like they are restrained, they are putting constraints on themselves. It's middle, so they are constraining themselves. Poti degmenoi, from this is poti for pros, the degmenoi from decamai, so it's something like expecting or waiting for your word. So it's not right for the stranger to be sitting at the hearth in the dust, and these people are constrained, waiting for your word, that is, waiting for you to say something. Al agede xenon men epithronu aguroelu heson anastasas su de kerukesin keliuson oinon epikresai hinakai dio terpikerauno spesomen hos thiketesin hum oidoi oisin opade. Just finish off that bit. Dorpon dexeno tamie dotto endon ionton. But come. Now our main verb is down here, hason, which is connected with hesdo, is the verb to cause to sit. In later Greek it becomes, it's generally in the middle, hesdomai, but here it's just active. So, but come, and it's an imperative here. You can see the son ending, aorist imperative. So come, cause the stranger to sit upon a throne, or perhaps a nice chair or seat, which is agura elu, which is silver studded. The halon here is a nail. It's used of a nail, and so in this context probably a stud of some sort, and we get the word for silver here. So on a silver studded throne, but you, keliuson, imperative, give bidding to the heralds, dative plural, from kerux, so give orders to the heralds. Epikresai, this is from epikeranumi, or connected with epikeranumi, which means to mix. So give orders to them to mix the wine, i.e. with water, hina, in order that also we might pour libation, from spendo, that we might pour libation also to Zeus who delights in the thunder. Now this is a subjunctive despite the fact we've got a short omicron here. This often happens in Homer for the sake of meter, but after Hina we expect a subjunctive. So this would be a subjunctive form, but he shortens the O for the sake of meter, because we need spes omen for the rhythm. Pour a libation to Zeus who delights in thunder, who ope deo is to attend or go along with. So who attends along with, or hama at the same time as, we get two datives here, respectful suppliants. Respectful suppliants. And let the tamiae, this is the female steward, Dotto, let her give, imperative from Didomi, let her give Dorpon supper for the stranger, from the things being end on within. So slightly with a funny genitive here. So to give supper from the things which are. Genitive plural participle from Amy, of that which was is within. Aute epe to kakus hieron menos alkinoio, keros helon, Odysseia deiphrona, poi kilometen, orson ap escarafin afin kai epi thronu hesi phi faenu. But when now Homer uses this expression here, it's literally the sacred strength of Menelaus. Now much is written about this here on as to quite exactly what it means. I'll leave you to look up the dictionaries and commentaries on this, but this is an expression that simply means the person himself. I think we had it a little bit earlier in relation to the mule. So it's simply Alkinous, but Homer writes the sacred strength of Alkinous. So when he heard this, in fact, Helon from Hyrio, having taken, that's the aorist participle, having taken Diaphrona, strong-minded, again there's various interpretations of this, I'll just say strong-minded, Odysseus, who is poikilometan, who is has cunning, he took him Kairos by the hand, Horson from Ornumi, and he brought him forth from the hearth. And we get apop, plus we get this old fin ending, an old ablative from. So he brought him up from the hearth, kai heser, from Hesdo again, and he caused him to sit on the shining throne. Phion anastasas agapeneroi la odamanta, hos hoi plesion his de malistedemin fil eske. And having caused to stand his son Laodamas, who is agapanora. Well, it's an interesting word. It means something like loving manliness, hence manly. Others say it means one who welcomes heroes. It's got the agape love root in it, and the anor here is connected with anor, a man, so who loves manliness, who sat Placion near to him, and now we get an iterative from Filio here, he loved him min auton most of all, so he was especially fond of him. Cairnibe dam Fipolos procoi epicuse ferusa cale crusae hupo agurioio lebetos nipsastai paradexestain etanusin trapesdan siton didoie tamiae parethe caferusi edat apolla epithesa charizomene perionton. Aute hopine kai heste polutlas dios Odysseus kai toti kerica prosephe menos alkinoia. And the servant woman bringing kerniba. This is water for washing your hands. It's connected with kair, the hand, and nipto, to wash. So the servant woman bringing water for washing your hands, she poured it into a beautiful gold jug or pitcher, and it was above a silver ewer. This is a genitive here from lebase. So the idea was that you had water in a jug and you poured it out over people's hands. They washed their hands and the water went down into this ewer underneath, this basin. And then we get the epexegetic nipsastai, with the same root as this nib in here, to wash, so for washing. Again, it's that dative use of the infinitive, this epexegetive, for the purpose of washing. Paradisestate, and she literally stretched out, or laid out, we might say, beside him a polished table, and the respectful Tamier steward, bringing it, she placed down food, siton, of some sort, epithase of mepitithemi, having placed much edita, well, much food, much edible things. Charizomene perionton, this is a stock phrase in Homer. It means being generous with the provisions from that which is present. So being generous with the provisions. It's a stock little phrase in Homer. Aute hopina, but he drank, and the subject here is much enduring, glorious Odysseus. He began to drink and to eat. And at that time, the strength of Alkinous, there's that expression again, so it's almost the spirit of Alkinous, called to the Keruka, the herald. And that's the next little section from Book 7.